Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I hope you're doing well.
Nice.
Today, we're going to be talking about my books that I've read this year thus far. This year, so far, I've read 7 books, and we're going to split up into 2 parts. For a quick little preview, today we're going to be talking about The Fire Next Time, James Baldwin, The Undocumented Americans, Karla Cornejo, I hope I said that right, Arthur Miller, Death of a Salesman, and Song of Solomon, Toni Morrison. But before we get started, I'm going to quickly share my method for reading consistently because I know that reading on a consistent basis can get kind of challenging. My goal is to read 10 pages of a novel a day and 30 minutes of an audiobook a day at least. There's some days where I go over depending on how good the book is, but that's my minimum. If you have a Spotify subscription, there's a lot of free audiobooks where you can choose from. And 10 pages may feel daunting at first, but you're just swiping the book 5 times. If you want to start the day by getting 3 swipes in, then later off in the day, get 2 swipes in, or however you want to split it up, it gets pretty smooth once you get used to it. And then with the audiobook, listen to it while you're walking, doing chores, driving, whatever. I don't know your schedule, but that's my method. Hope it helps. Now, the books. First, we're going to get started with Song of Solomon, Toni Morrison. One of my favorite books. It is really good. At a point when I was searching for new books to read, I particularly wanted to look for African American books. And when I was on YouTube looking at different African American stories, Toni Morrison's name came up a lot. So I was interested in reading her work. I was interested in reading either Sula or Song of Solomon because both of those synopses intrigued me. And one day I was walking in a local bookstore with a friend and I saw that they had Song of Solomon. So that's the one I chose. The story starts with a black insurance agent taking an attempt at flight, which is him jumping off of a hospital roof. It's the same hospital where the main character, Milkman, is born. We see how Milkman grows up working with his father, navigating his life with his interesting, to say the least, family, and we can see how spiritually dead he is. He goes on a journey to find gold, and as he is, he begins to learn more about his family and learn more about who he is, ultimately learning how to take flight in a system that only wants you quiet or dead. There's so many layers, so much depth to it, and the parallels, how Morrison ties everything in together is so good. There are times where I have to stop reading just to wrap my head around how much he's cooking. It doesn't just tackle racism and white capitalism and how black people function under white capitalism. It also tackles classism and misogyny amongst the black community. And the way she brings up these points, the way that she ties it all in, like I said, is amazing. Mind you, I've only been actively reading for almost a year now, but this is still some of the best writing I've ever seen. And from the praise that I've seen for Toni Morrison, I can tell that that point will still stand for a long time. This is one of those books where I did not have to worry about my 10-page minimum. It's a page turner. It's a page turner, a real page turner. And I'm gonna keep spoilers to a minimum, but there are some weird things that happen that kind of took me aback, but as I begun to read, it made more sense. So keep that in mind. I'm definitely going to read more of her work soon. Fantastic book. 5 stars easily. Speaking of capitalism, we have Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller. The same day that I picked up Song of Solomon is the day that I picked up Death of a Salesman. It's another commentary on capitalism, except instead of it being from the perspective of a black man, it's from the perspective of an old white man. In this story, we follow the main character, Willie Loman. He is miserable. He has to drive hours to and from his job, a job that has sort of forsaken him at this point, not nearly treating him as well as they should. And even though he's been working in sales for so long, he still struggles to take care of the bills. And his relationship with his son, Biff, is strained. We look into Willie's mind throughout the book, and we can sort of see where things went wrong. And as he tries to pull himself out of that hole that he's in, he only finds himself in a darker place. This is a play. This is my first play that I've read, so it's an interesting read. The actual play itself is on YouTube. If you do read this, I'd recommend watching the play as well as reading the book because it sort of ties together. Obviously ties together. Some lines made more sense upon me watching the play after reading the book. I'll drop the link for it in the description. Now, once again, I'm going to keep spoilers at a minimum, but I don't particularly feel bad for Willie for a lot of his shortcomings because a lot of them were his own fault that I can't particularly blame capitalism on. I feel bad for the extent that it went to, but there are a lot of things that he could have done differently as a person. But the theme of devoting your life to a job just for them to forsake you, stripping away what you genuinely enjoy doing, trying to seek out someone else's dreams, still stands. And the parallel between him and his son really ties the message together because his son just wants to live an honest, simple life, isn't particularly sure what he wants to do on the more corporate end, which causes this struggle between the two of them because Willie wants his son to be a top-notch salesman and Biff just doesn't really want that. Check out this quick clip of the play that really ties the message together.
You know something, Charlie? There was more of him in that front stoop than in all the sales he ever made.
He was so wonderful with his hands.
He had the wrong dreams. All wrong.
Don't say that.
He never knew who he was.
The American dream of making it big doesn't have to be your dream in particular. Next, The Undocumented Americans by Karla Cornejo. Once again, I hope I said that right. My friend got this from a bookstore and they told me about it and I was interested in reading it. With all the cruelty and injustice that immigrants have endured, notably this year, I wanted to educate myself more. Since there's only so much I can do, the least I can do is educate myself more on the topic. And this is a great book for me to do that. The writing is very down to earth, very Gen Z, if you will. Reading this book made it feel as though Karla and I are just sitting at a table while she talks about her experience and talks about the experience of other immigrants. The book is sort of an anthology of undocumented Americans' stories. As Karla is an activist well known for her coverage on immigration, she has these stories of different people that she's not only interviewed but also spent time with and have personal stories with, using her success as a Harvard graduate to give back to her community. It's beautiful. It sheds light on things that I didn't even think about, such as how immigrants played a very important role post 9/11, the people forsaken and left to suffer during the Flint, Michigan incident. So many things I was already aware of, but I gained more clarity on upon reading it. And upon reading it, it's not just something that I know on a broad scale. I see personal experiences. It feels much more human. This book for me is 4.5 stars. The writing is really good, but it didn't like blow my socks off or anything. It's not the type of book that's intended to be artistic or eloquent or intended to be the greatest piece of literature. But upon personal preference, that's why I give it 4.5 instead of 5. And last but not least for this video, we have The Fire Next Time, James Baldwin. Once again, upon my journey of wanting to read more African American books, this is also a book that I saw come up multiple times. So I want to read it. The book details on some of Baldwin's experiences and how he's grown up and seen how race and religion played a role in his life, as well as talking about how it's played a part in history. A lot of the details that were covered about religion were a bit difficult for me to understand. I'll have to reread it, but I did get the gist. It was interesting to see how religion played a part both within and outside of the Black community, as well as how Baldwin contradicted and asked questions about it. It was also interesting reading about the politics around that time, both on an international and domestic scale, and it all tying back to the fact that love and knowingness of who you are is really the answer. So many beautiful quotes, and the way he said everything was so beautifully written and executed. Another 4.5 star read for me. And that wraps this up for this week. Let's give a quick preview of what the next few books are going to look like in next review. We got Heart of the Sun Warrior, Su Lin Tan. Funny Story, Emily Henry. This Thing Between Us, Gus Moreno. And Tuesdays with Maury. Now, I didn't read this year. I read it like late last year, I believe. But I still want to talk about it because it's like my favorite book. And with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.